You ever stand in the grocery store holding a little glass jar of gravy and just stare at the price sticker? $2.49 for 4 ounces. That's not even enough to cover one plate of mashed potatoes. And the whole time, sitting right there in your own kitchen, in the bottom of the pan you just cooked supper in, is everything you need to make a whole quart of gravy better than that jar could ever dream of being, for free. You just have to know what you're looking at. Most folks look at that brown, crusty stuff stuck to the bottom of a roasting pan and see a mess. Something to scrub off with steel wool and a groan. But that crust is the best part of the whole meal. It's called fond, a French word, but don't let that scare you off. It just means base, like the foundation of a house. That crust is pure concentrated flavor. Meat juice, browned bits, melted fat, all baked right onto the pan while your roast or your chicken was cooking. Scrub it away, and you're throwing out the best part of supper without even tasting it. I've seen videos online lately, millions of views, showing folks making restaurant-style gravy with a packet of powder and 2 cups of water. And I'll be honest with you, some of those are quick, and quick has its place on a Tuesday night. I'm not here to tell you that's a sin, but packet gravy tastes like salt and cardboard next to real gravy made from real drippings. There's no comparison, and once you taste the difference side by side, you'll know exactly what I mean. My name's Ruth, and I cook the way my mother cooked and the way her mother cooked before her, out here on our little farm where we still keep a wood stove going most mornings from October through March. Nothing fancy, just old habits that happen to make really good food. I learned to make gravy from my Aunt Cora when I was 9 years old, standing on a wooden stool so I could reach the stovetop. She used to say a woman who can't make gravy from drippings has no business calling herself a cook, and she'd say it laughing, but she meant it too. She taught me to listen to the pan. The sizzle changes right before it's ready for flour, and once you've heard that sound a few times, you never forget it. By the time we're done today, you're going to know exactly how to turn the drippings from any roast, any chicken, any pan of sausage into rich, silky gravy without a single packet, without a single can, and without any guesswork. You'll know how much flour to use, how to keep it from going lumpy, and how to fix it if it does anyway, because that happens to everybody, even Aunt Cora. Before we get into the how of it, I want to mention I've been putting together a little handwritten style recipe guide for folks who want these old methods written down plain and simple, no fluff, just what works. I'll leave where to find it down in the description if that's something you're after. Now, here's the why behind all this, and I promise I'll keep it simple. When meat cooks in a hot pan, the proteins and the natural sugars on the surface go through something called browning. You don't need the fancy science word for it. Just know that heat turns those juices from pale and watery into deep brown and intensely flavorful. That's why a browned roast tastes so much better than a boiled one. All that flavor doesn't disappear. It sticks to the pan. And gravy is really just a way of rescuing that flavor and turning it into something you can pour. So here's how we do it, start to finish. Once your roast or your chicken comes out of the pan, you're going to have some drippings left behind. That's the fat and the juice pooled at the bottom. Pour it into a glass measuring cup and let it sit for about 5 minutes. You'll watch the fat rise right to the top, pale and slightly cloudy, floating over the darker juice underneath, the same way cream separates on top of fresh milk if you let it sit. Skim that fat off with a spoon and set it aside in a small bowl. You want about a 1/4 cup of fat. If your pan didn't give you quite enough, a little butter melted in will finish the job just fine. No shame in that at all. Set your pan right back on the stove over medium heat. Don't wash it. Don't wipe it. That crusty fond stuck to the bottom is the whole reason we're doing this. Pour in about a quarter cup of that fat you saved and let it warm up until it starts to shimmer, maybe 30 seconds, 45 if your stove runs cool. Now sprinkle in a quarter cup of flour, a little at a time, whisking as you go. This is the part people rush, and rushing is exactly how you end up with lumps. Go slow. The mixture will turn into a thick, golden paste. That's called a roux, and all it means is fat and flour cooked together until the raw flour taste cooks out and it turns a light amber color, like the shade of a manila envelope, maybe 2 or 3 minutes of steady whisking. You'll know it's ready when it smells a little nutty, almost like toast, instead of smelling like raw flour. Here's where the magic happens. Slowly pour in your liquid, broth, milk, or a mix of both, about 2 cups, while whisking the whole time, and don't stop whisking. As you pour, that flour and fat paste will scrape every bit of browned crust right off the bottom of the pan and dissolve it into the liquid. That's the whole secret. That crust you almost scrubbed away an hour ago is now dissolving into your gravy, carrying every bit of its flavor with it. Keep whisking over medium heat, and in about 4 or 5 minutes, you'll watch it thicken right in front of you. It goes from thin and milky looking to coating the back of a spoon, thick enough that when you drag your finger across the back of that spoon, the line stays clean and doesn't fill back in. That's your test. That's how you know it's done. Season it with salt and pepper to taste, and if it's a touch too thick, splash in more broth. Too thin? Let it simmer another minute or two and it'll catch up. Now let's talk money, because that's really where this whole thing starts to matter. That little jar at the store, the one I mentioned at the start, runs about $2.50 for 4 ounces. A quart of gravy is 32 ounces. To match that with store-bought jars, you'd need 8 of them, which comes out to $20 for a single quart of gravy. Homemade, using drippings you already paid for when you bought the meat, plus about 15 cents of flour and maybe a splash of milk, your quart of gravy costs you next to nothing. If your family goes through gravy the way mine does, roughly twice a month, that's real savings, somewhere around $30 or $40 a month, just sitting in a pan you were about to scrub clean. So here's the whole thing. Put back together simple. Don't wash that pan. Skim the fat. Warm it back up. Whisk in flour until it turns golden and smells toasty. Then pour in your liquid slow and steady while you keep whisking, scraping up every bit of that browned flavor from the bottom. Let it thicken until it coats a spoon. Season it, and you're done. No packet, no can, no guessing. This weekend, when you roast that chicken for Sunday supper, don't you dare scrub that pan clean before you've made your gravy. Set the pan right on the stove and try this while it's still hot. That's the whole assignment. 1 pan, 15 minutes, and you'll taste the difference before the potatoes are even mashed. Now, I've got a question for you, and I really do want to know the answer. When you were growing up, was gravy the thing everybody fought over at the table, or was it the thing nobody touched because somebody's gravy always came out lumpy? Tell me in the comments which one it was in your house, and if lumpy gravy was a running joke at your table too, because I have a feeling I'm not the only one who grew up hearing that story. Next time, I'm going to show you how that same drippings method turns into homemade beef and noodles, using nothing but a pot roast and a rolling pin. No boxed noodles required. But for tonight, remember this: the best gravy was never in a jar. It was always sitting right there in the bottom of your own pan, waiting on you to notice it.